Chapter 1939. Tang Chong was really a person who would do whatever she said. On the second day after returning to the family Tang village, she followed Tang Indo to look for Tang Gua. Sister Gua, from today onwards, I'm going to run a business seriously with my father. Tang Chong looked very serious. Her bright and lively eyes were now much calmer. All the naivety in them had faded away. Except for yesterday when she came back, her eyes seemed to be covered with a layer of mist. Today, they were back to their former brightness. The brightness in the past seemed to be only for Su Machin. Now, she finally understood that this world was no longer the world she saw before. To her, it was a real world. The people she met were all real people. If she was hurt, it would hurt. If she was sad, she would feel terrible. The people around her were really good to her. There was a father who was infinitely tolerant of her, Tang Bai who never gave up persuading her, and Sister Guo, who knew everything. In the end, she was almost caught by Su Machin. It was Guo's brother-in-law's men who saved her. She used to be so willful, but when she was in danger, no one gave up on her. She was really touched. Her Prince Charming was different from what she thought. He even hurt her deeply and trampled on all her sincerity. She was sad, but she didn't live for a man. He didn't like her and didn't care about her anymore. Did she have to die? After all, she was a rising star who had received modern education. She couldn't embarrass herself in front of the ancient people, so she had to pull herself together. Without love, she still had family, friends, and could become a rich woman. Sister Gua, I have a few ideas that I want to work with you. Under the curious gaze of the few people, Tang Chong took out a thick stack of paper. I drew this overnight. Sister Gua, take a look. Are these ideas useful? Tang Gua took it and looked at it slowly with a smile on her lips. What Tang Chong drew were all kinds of clothes. Each of them was very beautiful and the style was not too exaggerated. If it was made according to the drawings, it would bring a lot of surprises to the women of this era. Not only that, in addition to the unique dresses, there were also some accessories that women liked, which were also very unique. At the end, she saw a few clothes that seemed to be modified based on Lorita. It was indeed very different from the clothes of this era, but it was really nice. This era was more liberal and the clothes of each country were very different. After Tang Chong modified the clothes from Lorita, as long as someone dared to wear it, it would definitely attract many women. Sister Gua, are these okay? Tang Gua nodded. Yes, I'll work with you. After Tang Gua agreed, Tang Chong's eyes seemed to overflow with countless beautiful little stars. That's great. Those little accessories are not bad. Rose's idea is very good. If this thing is made, it will definitely be very attractive. Sister Gua, actually, I have an idea, the boxes and bottles. Given Sister Gua's ability, you should be able to get a lot of glaze, right? You can design a special glaze that belongs to the Tang family and print the Tang family's words on the glaze. I believe that after this, the business will get better and more people will want to buy it. Peak. Chapter 1940. That day, Tang Chong told Tang Gua a lot of her thoughts. She told Tang Gua everything she had seen in modern times that could be applied to this era. She wished she could explain everything clearly to Tang Gua in one day. Although she was a little naive and had a bad eye for people in the past, she was sure that her sister Gua was not the kind of person who would take advantage of others. If Sister Gua was really a profiteer, would the family Tang village be so prosperous now? When she thought of her father, who was originally the richest man in the village, became the poorest man because of her stubbornness in the past few years, she felt a little sad. She would work hard to bring out all that she knew and saw. Tang Chong wrote all her thoughts in a book and finally handed it to Tang Gua. Tang Gua did not treat her unfairly and gave her a share of the profits. After leaving everything to Tang Gua, Tang Chong took a lot of embroidery and rouge powder and went to the western region with Tang Indo. There were many established trade caravans in the Yu state. Latecomers like them could not seize the opportunity and would easily offend people. Even if they managed to get a place in the trade caravan, they would not be able to earn so much money. She thought that the things in the Yu state were very rare and precious in the western region. Moreover, the western region produced all kinds of beautiful gemstones. She would not sell these things for money. Instead, she would let those people exchange gemstones and rare items with her. After the exchange of goods, she and her father could bring some gemstones and rare items to the Yu state to exchange for money. Tang Chong's idea was very successful. In just 3 years, she and Tang Indo had made a lot of money. The father and daughter also brought in many rare items from the western region, including some seeds of fruits and vegetables. Tang Chong was very smart. She came to Tang Gua to cooperate with her. After getting these things, Tang Gua naturally had to discuss with the emperor. She did not expect Tang Chong to bring so many surprises. Through Tang Gua, Tang Chong met the emperor as a businesswoman and presented the treasures she had obtained from various countries. Especially those rare seeds, which the emperor liked very much. Because Tang Chong not only brought back the seeds of fruits and vegetables, but also people. These people had a low status in the western region and were comparable to slaves. She did not know how to grow these things, so she bought all these people. She had planned to cooperate with Tang Gua and let Tang Gua distribute these people. She believed that the smart sister Gua would definitely be able to surprise her. She didn't expect sister Gua to give her a surprise. She actually let her meet the emperor. Now, she had even been recognized by the emperor, who had even given her a special identity as an imperial merchant of the Yu kingdom. He was not the emperor of the Yu kingdom, but the imperial merchant of the Yu kingdom to the other kingdoms. He was mainly in charge of the transactions between the Yu kingdom and the other kingdoms. Now the Yu country has liuli, soap, and other good things, they just lack someone who can travel to other countries and have a business mind. The emperor looked left and right, this Tang Chong. He still remembered that Tang Chong was the one who suggested liuli and soap. It would be a waste if he did not make use of her. When Su Machin saw Tang Chong again, he was stunned. The minister around her was also talking with confidence. She was not timid at all. He could not see the confident woman in her eyes. She was not like the person he knew at all. The top. Chapter 1941. Chong. When Tang Chong was not talking to anyone, Su Machin came to her and called her affectionately. Tang Chong looked back coldly and glanced at him. That careless attitude made Su Machin feel a little cold. Was she still the woman who only had eyes for him? Why couldn't he see his shadow in her eyes? Duke, are you calling me? The emperor not only gave Tang Chong the special identity of a royal merchant, but also gave her a nominal position. Although it was a nominal position, it also represented her status. He also gave her a house in the capital. In front of Su Machin, her status was not lower than his. And she also knew that her sister Guo was the little princess. Who was the little prince? He was the mysterious 9th prince, the emperor's favorite brother. So, Su Machin should be afraid of her. Chong, why are you so distant? Seeing Tang Chong now, Su Machin was very regretful. Who would have thought that this woman who looked like a straw bag could grow up to this day? If Tang Chong was still one of his people, it would be great if she supported him with her current status and wealth. A few years ago, he and the 3rd prince fought against other threatening princes. He thought that victory was in sight, but the emperor did not intend to make him the crown prince. Whether or not he made him the crown prince, his wealth and power must not be small. Tang Chong smiled and said to Su Machin, "Duke, I heard that you got a pair of twins last month. Congratulations here. By the way, I still have something to do. Sister Gua and Ah Bai are waiting for me." Before Su Machin could speak, Tang Chong walked past him and left. Su Machin's face stiffened. He wanted to chase after her, but in the end, he remembered who Tang Chong was going to see and stopped. He clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. His eyes fell coldly on the place where Tang Chong disappeared. When the third prince's business was successful, he would give these people a big gift. Wait and see. Miss Abai, the third prince just sent someone to ask you to go to the lake tomorrow. Do you want to go? Lin Yan asked coldly. Tang Bai paused for a moment. I'm not going. Big brother Lin, in the future, as long as it's the third prince's people, I won't see them. How about this, Big brother Lin? Just tell him that I already have someone I like and I'm already engaged. I should avoid other men. Do you have someone you like? Was he engaged? Lin Yan subconsciously ignored the other words and only heard these two sentences. He first replied to third prince's men, then came back to ask Tang Bai, Miss Bai, when did you get engaged? When he asked this, he was extremely nervous. Tang Bai was a little puzzled. Big brother Lin, when did I get engaged? That's right, Miss Bai. When did you get engaged? Why didn't I know about it? Tang Bai quickly reacted and said with a smile, "No, what I said just now was just to deceive the third prince. I don't want to pay attention to him." Lin Yan heaved a sigh of relief. Then Miss Bai, do you have someone you like? Or was what he said just now to deceive the third prince? That's right, it was to deceive him. How could I have someone I like? Tang Bai said faintly. In this life, she probably wouldn't have anyone she liked anymore. In her previous life, she was tired of loving and hurt enough. Liking someone was so tiring. If she liked the wrong person, it would be a tragedy. Lin Yan's heart relaxed and he sighed again, not asking anything else. The Peak. Chapter 1942. Over the past few years, I've heard people talking behind my back about how long I have left to live. Don't you think that's ridiculous? The emperor held a glass of wine and sat lazily on the dragon throne as he talked to Tang Gua and the others. Everyone present today was a family. The emperor didn't seem to be so arrogant and was much more approachable. Ever since he became familiar with Tang Gua and the others, he didn't let his imagination run wild. Every day, there are people cursing me to die early. The emperor snorted. In their dreams. I have a few more decades to live. It's so annoying. In the past few years, I've had a few more sons who have grown up one after another. These sons are cuter when they're young. They're not obedient at all when they grow up. Haven't I given them enough? You're always thinking about Jin's early death and want to sit below Jin's butt. Gu Jusi comforted him. Second brother, don't be angry. Take care of yourself and live longer. Those little bastards will die of anger. That's right. Second brother, what's there to be angry about? Look at your eldest son. He's in his 30s. In another 30 or 40 years, he'll be a white-haired old man. Second brother, take care of yourself. You might even be younger than those little bastards. There are also some little bastards who indulge in wine, meat, and beauty. Maybe they won't live to that age. The emperor glanced at Gu Ronghe and laughed. Eldest brother, you're right. Maybe I'll be the one who dies before my own. Gu Ronghe was speechless. Second brother really didn't know how to talk. He didn't know how sad his nephews would be if he said that. Tang Guo was speechless. Interesting. Gu Jusi was speechless. Second brother seemed to make a lot of sense. But I'm still a little annoyed. Eldest brother, ninth brother, sister-in-law, help me think of a way. Let those little bastards fight among themselves. Don't keep guessing when I'll die, okay? Although I'm very healthy, I don't want to be cursed behind my back for a short life. The emperor looked worried. We can't kill all those who badmouth me. They're all important people in the court. They won't be able to take care of them for a while. Other than their bad mouths, they don't have any other major problems. Every emperor is very lonely. This second brother is still considered good. At least there are two brothers standing by his side who can feel the sincerity of family. The other emperors were not so lucky. It was not that they were paranoid, but their own sons really wanted the emperor to die every day, and they wanted to sit on the throne. As for familial love, there was definitely some, but under the temptation of power, these were not worth mentioning. Otherwise, why would the emperor be called a loner? Sister-in-law, we see that you are deep in thought. Have you thought of any good ideas? Tang Guo returned to her senses and smiled. I did think of something, but I don't know if it'll be useful to you. Tell me about it first. System, he felt that this woman was up to no good again. Since second brother is annoyed that people are talking about your life and death every day, I also don't like countless people coveting your position. I have two ideas. First, why don't you set up a target and let the other party attract everyone's attention? That way, no one will keep an eye on you. The emperor's eyes lit up. This was actually his idea, but he didn't do it yet. What's the second idea? The second idea. Tang Guo's smile deepened. The peak. Chapter 1943. As for the second one, I will be the most filial to you and always think about your little nephew. It will give others the illusion that you like filial children. In this way, nephew Nashi will not look forward to your death every day. They all hope that you will live well and perform well, so that they can win your favor one day. Second brother, what do you think of this idea? Even if it is fake filial piety, it is better than looking forward to your death every day, isn't it? The emperor did not mind Tang Guo talking about his death. In fact, he did not have such taboos and rules in front of his trusted relatives. The reason why he looked so unpredictable in front of outsiders was that he hid himself as a way to protect himself. If everyone dared to talk about life and death with him, no one would be afraid of him. After hearing Tang Guo's suggestion, he was suddenly enlightened. Yes, those little bastards looked forward to his death every day. Then he would deliberately spoil them and be filial to them. Whether they were really filial or not, he would appreciate the one who did well on the surface. Every time he heard a secret guard report that a certain son was secretly discussing why he wasn't dead yet, he felt very stifled just listening to it. They were all his children. Those children he had held were not obedient when they grew up. It really made him sad. Sister-in-law, this is a good idea. I will do as you say. Gu Ronghe and Gu Jusi looked at each other and involuntarily glanced at Tang Guo. Then they silently buried their heads and drank tea. A thought flashed through their minds. If they were not from the same family, they would not enter the same house. This idea was really wonderful. After that day, the direction of the imperial court changed drastically. For a time, all the princes and princesses became filial sons and daughters. The reason was that one day, a younger prince was concerned about the emperor's health and asked him to keep the emperor alive. Then the emperor gave the prince a lot of rewards and often went to see the prince to ask about his homework. When this happened, many princes suddenly realized why the emperor did not appoint a crown prince. It turned out that the emperor thought they were not filial enough. From then on, the emperor experienced the feeling of all his children being filial. Although he knew it was fake, he didn't care. In fact, he thought it was quite fun. According to the news from the hidden guards, it wasn't the princes who were hoping for his death. Instead, it was the princes who were looking for interesting things to give to him. He did not mistreat the prince who was filial to him. He rewarded him when he deserved it and praised him when he deserved it. He suddenly realized that compared to scolding these brats, it was more interesting to praise them. Looking at the happy faces of these children, he closed the door and sat alone on the dragon throne, slapping his thigh and laughing heartily. Interesting, this is really interesting. Among them, the third prince had Sumachen's plans one by one. His hard work paid off and he finally won the emperor's favor. While the two of them were flattered, the emperor conferred the title of crown prince to the third prince. Even after the crown prince was conferred, the princes realized that the emperor was not stingy with his praise for the other princes, nor did he belittle them because of the crown prince. When they performed meritorious deeds and did well, they would be rewarded and praised. Because of this, countless princes especially hoped that the emperor could live a little longer. Then, the emperor realized that the princes often sent him some rare tonics from all over your country and even other countries. They were all rare tonics. He rewarded these filial sons well. At the top. Chapter 1944. Ever since the third prince became the crown prince, the princes had been very busy. On one hand, they were busy being filial to the emperor and finding supplements for him. On the other hand, they were busy catching the third prince's mistakes. The saddest ones were the third prince and Sumachen. Later, Tang Guo received a letter from the emperor. In the letter, he talked about some interesting things between him and the princes. He also said that her idea was really good. Because of this, he asked people to send Tang Guo many rare treasures. Of course, it also brought them an even better piece of news. The emperor wrote, yesterday, after the imperial physician took Zhen's pulse, he said that Zhen's body has become much stronger. Combined with the supplements and martial arts, Zhen's lifespan will probably be extended by a few more years. Perhaps in a few decades, Zhen will really have to send off Zhen's child. Tang Guo read the letter and was a bit speechless. Gu Jusi couldn't help but laugh. I've never seen second brother so happy. It must be because he's happy that his health has improved. Guo thank you so much. What are you thanking me for? Do you need to thank me? Gu Jusi didn't care. He just wanted to thank his Guo. Without her, how could second brother and eldest brother's health recover to this extent? Later, on a rainy day, Sumachen rode a horse to find Tang Chong. No one knew what the two talked about, but Sumachen was thrown out in the end. It was said that one of his legs was broken. When Tang Guo asked, Tang Chong said, what else could it be? He actually wanted to abandon his wife and children. He divorced his wife and said that he wanted to marry me. Breaking one of his legs was already a light punishment. Sister Changchang, you did well. Tang Bai said happily. From then on, Sumachen never came to find Tang Chong again. Tang Chong never married in her life. She spent all her time traveling between countries, bringing out items from your country and bringing in rare items from other countries. When she was alive, she was always valued by the emperor. She became one of the most outstanding women in your country and fulfilled Tang Indo's wish to be the richest in the world. In the following decades, the princes were filial to the emperor and fought against the third prince, the crown prince. After that, the first prince died of old age, the second prince died of old age, the fourth prince died of old age, the ninth prince also died of old age. One day, countless princes saw the white-haired crown prince and the white-haired Marquis Su standing in the imperial court. In the main hall, the emperor, who was much older than them, actually had a head of black hair. He was still full of energy, his eyes were bright, and a chill ran down his spine. The third prince looked at the emperor, who was already in his 70s, who was still so healthy. Finally, he couldn't take it anymore and collapsed on the throne room in front of all the civil and military officials. Su Machin spat out a mouthful of blood. They had survived countless people, but they did not expect that they would not be able to survive the emperor. "How is the crown prince?" the emperor asked. The imperial physician replied, "Your Majesty, the crown prince is old. Oh, it's all fate. Take care of the crown prince. I'm a little sad and want some peace and quiet." All the civil and military officials shook their heads as they watched the energetic emperor leave. They also wanted some peace and quiet. Over the years, how many people had fallen in the imperial court one after another? Their wise and mighty emperor really had to send off his own children again and again. "Brother Lin, why don't you marry in this life?" The white-haired Lin Yen still had his sword on his back as he stood beside Tang Bai. There was only infinite gentleness in his cold eyes. "I don't want to marry." "I thought Brother Lin would say that you don't have anyone you like." Tang Bai lowered her head and smiled. Lin Yen said, "I have someone I like." "Then why don't you marry the person you like?" Tang Bai raised her head and asked with a smile. Lin Yen looked at her and answered seriously, "She doesn't want to get married. She said that she won't like anyone else in this life, so I won't force her." "Is it worth it?" "It's not worth it or not. Although I haven't married and she hasn't married, I can always be by her side and accompany her until she grows old." Tang Bai joked, "Brother Lin, I said you're a blockhead, but you won't admit it. No wonder you're always bullied by your brothers." Lin Yen just looked at her and smiled as he followed her back. Decades had passed in a hurry. It was already good enough to be by her side. Tang Bai suddenly stopped and turned back. "Brother Lin, you've been by my side for a lifetime. If I die one day, I'm afraid I won't be used to it. Even if I die, I'll be by your side." "Really? Really?" Tang Bai walked over and asked, "Then how about we stay together after death?" Lin Yen was stunned for a moment, then a smile appeared on his old and cold face. "Okay. Tang Chang, you're in class again." Tang Chang was awakened by a knock on her head. When she opened her eyes, she saw the class teacher's scary face. She was originally the most afraid of the class teacher. Now that she saw this face that was like a living corpse, she looked around. Those familiar faces and environment actually made her laugh foolishly. "You still dare to laugh? Hand over your phone." Tang Chang obediently took out her phone and handed it to the class teacher with both hands. This action shocked everyone in the class. So obedient today. The class teacher took the phone and frowned. Looking at Tang Chang's silly look, she put her hand on her forehead. "You don't have a fever." "Student Tang Chang, if anything happens, you must tell me. You're still young, don't feel pressured." The class teacher said earnestly, "It's a way to pass the time. It's suitable to look at it when you're relaxing. You should study hard in class, understand?" Tang Chang was still smiling foolishly and nodding vigorously. "Keep your phone well. Don't look at these things in class in the future." The class teacher observed Tang Chang and felt that she must pay more attention to this female student in the future. She didn't know if something had happened to her. Students at this age were the most likely to have psychological problems. But she didn't know that Tang Chang in front of her had lived her life in a certain place and experienced a magical journey. When Tang Guo opened her eyes in the new world, there was darkness in front of her and she couldn't see anything. Was it an accident or was it natural? Peak. Chapter 1945. It was an accident. The system replied. It was pitch black when she opened her eyes. This was the first time Tang Guo experienced this. Although she had traveled through time and space for so many years, she had also experienced the feeling of going blind. But this was the first time she could not see. The feeling of coming to a strange world and trying to familiarize herself with the environment but suddenly realizing that she could not see was not a good feeling. Even if she was not afraid of anything, the feeling of not being able to see her surroundings was not good. Especially the surroundings, it was really too quiet. This kind of silence made her feel very lonely. She touched the things around her. She seemed to be sitting on a soft sofa. From the texture of the sofa, she could guess that her family was not bad. Is it day or night now? Day. The system replied obediently. Its host's state of mind was too calm. It felt a little unreal. Previously, it had secretly browsed through the plot of this world. After reading the plot, it did not remind Tangua if she wanted to read the plot. Because the things that happened in this world were not so pleasant. Tangua had already sat on the sofa again and found a more comfortable position to lean on. Because she could not see, it made no difference whether she closed her eyes or not. When she was about to accept the memory, she still closed her eyes out of habit. Is there anyone at home? No. When the system heard this, it knew that the host was about to accept the memory and plot. Then accept the memory and plot. Tangua sat on the sofa and leaned on the soft pillow. She closed her eyes and began to accept the memory and watch the plot of this world. Through the memory, she knew that the place she was living in now was not her home. It was her fiancé, Jiang Yandong's villa. This body had just turned 10 years old this year. It was when she was 10 years old that she was engaged to Jiang Yandong. This year, Jiang Yandong was 19 years old. The family Tang and the Jiang family were family friends. The relationship between the two families had always been good. Jiang Yandong's parents and her parents were very busy researchers. They were very busy all year round and did not have much time to meet. The two villas were bought next to each other. The original owner and Jiang Yandong knew each other since childhood. They could be said to be childhood sweethearts. When they were very young, both parents thought that the two of them were compatible. If there were no other accidents, they hoped that the two of them would become a couple. The original owner had liked Jiang Yandong since she was a child. Their paths were different from their parents. Jiang Yandong had loved games since he was young. All kinds of games were his favorites. When he was 14 years old, he was spotted by an esports club due to his outstanding gaming talent. Since then, he had joined that famous esports club and started a different life. The 15-year-old Jiang Yandong performed outstandingly in a magnificent esports competition and obtained the highest honor for the entire team. He became the rising star of the esports world, the idol of countless young girls, and the worship of countless esports fans. For a time, Jiang Yandong's name was all the rage in the esports world. Everyone knew him and was proud of him. He was only in his teens, and his esports career had just begun. He still had many years ahead of him, and everyone believed that he would bring them countless surprises in the following days. Chapter 1946. Just as everyone expected, the 16, 17, 18, and 19-year-old Jiang Yandong didn't disappoint anyone. He achieved more and more, making people look up to him. During this time, no one knew that Jiang Yandong's esports career almost stopped because of an accident. Geniuses would always attract jealousy. In this world, there would always be people who would stifle the growth of geniuses for various reasons, preventing them from continuing their glory. Jiang Yandong was too dazzling, and he finally met with such a disaster. But he was very lucky. There was a girl called Tangua who helped him block this misfortune. Jiang Yandong was lucky enough to escape that accident. His eyes and hands weren't injured. The host wasn't so lucky. She lost her sight and her hands were injured to a certain extent. Before she was injured, the host was a girl who liked to play the piano and draw. After she lost her sight, these things left her. But she didn't feel dispirited. When she found out that Jiang Yandong wasn't injured and that after that accident, he still participated in the competition normally and even won, she was really happy. Ever since Jiang Yandong became interested in esports and mentioned it to the host, his eyes lit up. She knew what esports meant to Jiang Yandong. It was his life. She couldn't see, but she liked to listen to Jiang Yandong's competitions. When she knew that he won in the end, she would always smile from the bottom of her heart and call Jiang Yandong to congratulate him. Jiang Yandong's feelings for the host were more complicated. Maybe he liked her a little, but more than that, he felt guilty and grateful. After that incident, he promised the host and her parents that he would take care of her for the rest of his life. So when she turned 18, he decided to get engaged to her. When Jiang Yandong got engaged, it caused quite a stir. Many fans thought that how could such an outstanding esports genius like Jiang Yandong have a fiancé who couldn't see? In this regard, Jiang Yandong was honest enough to tell everyone that if it wasn't for the host, he wouldn't be where he was today. After knowing this story, the fans weren't so excited. This matter was considered over. If everything happened slowly and nothing went wrong, Jiang Yandong would retire in the future and marry the original owner. Then they would live a warm and peaceful life. But Jiang Yandong was the male lead of this world, and the female lead of this world was someone else. The original owner wasn't the female lead, which meant that she couldn't walk with the male lead to the end. No matter if she was good or bad, she would leave the male lead side in the end. She would only be a stepping stone, cannon fodder, a small supporting role between the male lead and female lead. The female lead of this world was called Xiao Lian. Xiao Lian was born in a family of godly thieves. During the day, she was an ordinary high school student. Like other girls, she chased after celebrities, played games, and talked about those genius esports players. Especially in the past 2 years, the esports industry had been developing rapidly. These girls talked more about esports gossip. At night, Xiao Lian was a peerless thief. She had skills that ordinary people didn't have in the modern world. She could climb tall buildings with her bare hands. Not to mention 3 or 5 floors, she could even climb 7 or 8 floors easily with her skills. As for the higher and more dangerous ones, she could easily climb them with the help of some tools. The Peak. Chapter 1947. In this world, there were many capable people. A family like Xiao Lian's was just the tip of the iceberg. These capable people hid in the crowd. Unless they exposed themselves, no one would think that such people could be around you. They had their own groups and forums. Like ordinary people, they chased after idols and gossiped. At the same time, they also had some special hobbies. For example, if they didn't like someone, they would secretly prank that person at night. Under normal circumstances, they wouldn't go too far. They would also post some tasks. As long as they completed the task, they would receive a generous reward. If they were interested, they would usually do it. This forum didn't only have these capable people, but also other ordinary people. In fact, most of the time, it was those ordinary people who posted the tasks. Their high rewards could often attract a large number of people to help them with the tasks. The cause of the matter was that there was a task to steal Jiang Yandong's personal belongings. The basic reward was 100,000 yuan. If one item was stolen, another 100,000 yuan would be added. If 2 items were stolen, another 100,000 yuan would be added. In short, the more items were stolen, the more the reward would be. For these capable people, stealing personal belongings was only worth a few 100,000 yuan. They didn't want to do it. However, such a reward was still attractive to Xiao Lian, who had just finished her apprenticeship. Moreover, she was also a girl who liked esports. She also wanted to see what the home of the esports expert Jiang Yandong was like. If she could see him with her own eyes and take a few photos while stealing, it should cause a big sensation, right? Thus, Xiao Lian accepted the task to steal Jiang Yandong's belongings. One night, she sneaked into the villa and packed a lot of Jiang Yandong's clothes. In the end, she was discovered by Jiang Yandong, who had just taken a shower. Jiang Yandong was wrapped in a bath towel and had a series of fights with Xiao Lian. In the end, she tore off the bath towel. At this critical moment, the original owner heard some noise and came downstairs. Taking advantage of this, Xiao Lian turned around and escaped. Because in this scene, no discord, no concord. The male and female protagonists knew each other, and in the various scenes that the two of them encountered later on, they didn't get along. It was like a gathering of enemies. Slowly, they developed feelings for each other. Xiao Lian later joined Jiang Yandong's club because she had some gaming talent. From then on, the two of them teamed up and became a legend in the esports world. Where there were male and female leads, there would naturally be disputes and all sorts of dangers. After the two of them faced countless dangers together, how could they not be moved by each other? Although the original owner couldn't see, he could feel that Jiang Yandong was different from before. In any case, she was a pampered young lady. When she felt unsafe, it was inevitable that she would often call Jiang Yandong, hoping that he would appear by her side. She was silently jealous. In this dark world, she did not even know who her love rival was. Later, she secretly went to the esports club and heard a lot of things. Only then did she know that Jiang Yandong and Xiao Lian were known as the golden couple in the esports world. Later on, the original owner appeared more and more in the club. Because of the uncertainty in her heart, she disturbed Jiang Yandong a lot. In the eyes of people who loved esports, anyone who disturbed the training and competition of an esports genius for any reason was unforgivable and sinful. The Peak. Chapter 1948. Jiang Yandong's friends and colleagues helped him hide the truth about Xiao Lian and Jiang Yandong. At the same time, they also tried to persuade Jiang Yandong that they weren't suitable for each other. Xiao Lian was also sad because of Jiang Yandong's fiancé. She sat in a corner and was comforted by the second, third, and fourth boys. Jiang Yandong looked at the second male lead, the third male lead, and the fourth male lead. As they comforted Xiao Lian, he felt jealous. It was hard for him to bear the care and disturbance of the original Jiang Yandong. He wanted to break up with her many times, but he owed the original Jiang Yandong too much and couldn't make up his mind. Later, someone exposed that the original Jiang Yandong disturbed Jiang Yandong's training. She used the excuse that she was blind to help Jiang Yandong and did whatever she wanted in the club. The original Jiang Yandong often heard people talking about her. There was even one time when Jiang Yandong's female fans cursed and threw things at her. She was completely at a loss as to what to do and did not understand what she had done wrong. She was just afraid of losing the person she liked. She never thought of stopping his dream. She just wanted him to talk to her when he was free and tell her about the beauty of the world. She could sit on the side and train with him. Even if he couldn't come over to talk to her, she would feel safe sitting there. But Jiang Yandong was already impatient with her and had someone else he liked. She was a person of flesh and blood. She knew sadness, jealousy, anger, and unwillingness. She could give up everything for Jiang Yandong. Jiang Yandong promised her that he would be with her and take care of her for the rest of her life. Why did he like someone else? Standing in the corner of the club, she could hear people whispering about her. Jiang Yandong's friends also came to her and told her that they weren't suitable for each other. They told her that Jiang Yandong still had a long future and told her not to ruin his future. She opened her mouth countless times, but didn't know what to say or how to explain herself. She hid in the corner and heard Xiao Lian and Jiang Yandong arguing. She felt the other party's pain and embarrassment. In the end, she chose to go home with the blind guide's stick. There was a very important competition the next day. She didn't want to ruin Jiang Yandong's dream. At this critical moment, she chose to leave quietly. Perhaps it was because she remembered how Jiang Yandong comforted Xiao Lian. Even when they argued, they were still affectionate. Her mind was in a mess. Even the blind guide's stick didn't seem to be able to help her identify the direction. Amidst the chaos, the original owner was hit by a car and died on the spot. Due to guilt over the death, Jiang Yandong, he didn't perform well in the competition the next day. Was his only failure in the club. The fans knew that it was the death of Jiang Yandong that caused Jiang Yandong to perform poorly. They didn't sympathize with Jiang Yandong's death. Instead, they cursed her for not dying earlier or later, but on the first day of the competition. Wasn't this going against Jiang Yandong? Just because Jiang Yandong didn't like her and wanted to break up with her, she used such a vicious method to get back at him and ruin his future. Poor Jiang Yandong. Just because of an accident, she had to endure so much abuse. Jiang Yandong was depressed for half a year because of this incident. Under Xiao Lian's careful comfort, he slowly walked out of it. The Peak. Chapter 1949. He returned to the esports world and teamed up with Xiao Lian to dominate the esports world. That was when they really got together and became a legend in the esports world. Every time people recalled Xiao Lian, they would pull out the original host and talk about it. They talked about how evil she was and how she wanted to destroy Jiang Yandong. But in the end, she was no match for Xiao Lian. Because of Xiao Lian, Jiang Yandong returned to their sites. They said that the original host deserved to die and that she didn't cherish her life. More and more people said this, and many people believed it. Everyone thought that the original host deliberately got hit by a car. Even Jiang Yandong believed it. The guilt in his heart lessened until it was almost gone. In the end, he felt at ease and got together with Xiao Lian. The original host became a passerby in his life. Later, he and Xiao Lian went through a lot and had long forgotten that there was a girl who lost her life for him. In his heart, that girl was no longer clean. She was just like what people said, a person with evil intentions. After Tang Guo finished reading, she fell silent for a while before saying, when she left the esports club that day, she actually planned to go to the cake shop to buy dessert. She said that eating dessert would make her feel better. The system asked weakly, the host's voice was very calm. He couldn't tell whether she was happy or angry. But intuition told him that she was definitely unhappy. In the end, no matter who Jiang Yandong was or what responsibilities he shouldered, he had cheated on her, and he had done it openly. He remembered that in the plot, there were several times when the original host went to look for Jiang Yandong in the club. She met him hugging Xiao Lian and kissing her. The people around her just kept silent. No one reminded her. Presumably, in the eyes of those people, the original host wasn't good enough for Jiang Yandong. There were also some scenes where Xiao Lian climbed over the villa to look for Jiang Yandong in the middle of the night. Although under normal circumstances, the two of them would fight as soon as they met, there would always be some ambiguity in the end. Actually, when he thought about it, his worldview was a little ruined. He obviously had a fiancée, but he didn't know how to keep a distance from her. If he kept flirting with her, wouldn't he be a scumbag? Jiang Yandong didn't dare to break up with the original owner because he felt guilty. Then why did he dare to openly flirt with Xiao Lian? In fact, in the club, he didn't even try to hide his feelings for Xiao Lian from the others. She was even jealous of the second, third, and fourth male leads. What kind of position did he place the fiancée of the original host? Therefore, he was a piece of trash. the system carefully suggested. There's no hurry. It doesn't matter whether I'm cured or not. Hearing this, the system's heart skipped a beat. Not treating the eyes meant that the host was very angry. If she wanted to treat her eyes, the great host would definitely not be that angry. Forget it. Seeing or not seeing with the naked eye wouldn't affect the host too much. Even if the host wasn't willing to activate the heaven's eye, there was still the system, wasn't there? With him around, nothing would happen to the host. Based on the medical standards of this world, there's no way to cure my eyes in the next few decades. Tongzi, don't forget what my parents do. If my eyes could be cured, they would have sent me abroad for treatment. Peak. Chapter 1950. What's the date today? The 8th. The system no longer tried to persuade Tangua to treat her eyes. If the host was willing to be blind, then so be it. Maybe in the future when she's happy, she'll be willing. After replying, he helped Tangua report her safety to her friends in the group as usual, and told them about this world. Seeing the group's friends indignantly discussing this world, the system let out a sigh of relief. So many people cared about the host, she definitely wouldn't be too angry. There's still about 10 days before Xiao Lian comes to the villa to steal things. Tangua frowned and thought for a moment. In today's legal society, it's illegal to break into private property and steal things. For this kind of thief, the right thing to do is to call the police and send her to the police station for tea, where she can receive proper guidance and education. Under the system's trembling program, he heard Tangua's words, in the future, every time she comes, I'll send her to the police station. System, allow him to observe a moment of silence for Xiao Lian. She better not take anything too expensive. If it's more than 2,000 yuan, she'll be sentenced. Tangua pursed her lips and said with a smile. Her voice was very pleasant, gentle and pleasant to the ear. That smile made the whole villa fall into a frozen state, as if it was the 12th lunar month, freezing people. Because the original owner's parents were very busy, they didn't even come home twice a year. Even though the original owner's house was next door, for convenience, Jiang Yandong still brought her to the Jiang villa. The original owner liked Jiang Yandong so much, she definitely wouldn't refuse and wanted to be closer to him. In fact, it wasn't that close. Jiang Yandong was very busy, he had to go to school and go to the club. It was only at night that they could see each other. Madame Chen was the villa's helper. She took care of Tangua's daily needs. If she had any needs, she would ask Madame Chen to do it. Madame Chen's house wasn't far from here. Under normal circumstances, she would come to clean the villa and help the original owner cook. If the original owner needed anything, she would call her. Today's mobile phones were very smart. You only needed to say, "Call Madame Chen," and the number would be dialed. Under normal circumstances, voice was enough to satisfy the blind original owner's needs. "Miss Xiaogua, how can I help you?" Tangua said, "Madame Chen, I haven't been sleeping well lately. I keep having the feeling that someone will climb into the villa. Help me find some people to strengthen the security of the villa. You won't understand even if I explain it this way. First, find the security personnel for me. I'll tell them what I need." "Okay, Miss Xiaogua, I'll help you find him right away." An hour later, Madame Chen arrived with the person in charge of security. Tangua sat on the sofa. "Please help me strengthen the defense of the villa, especially the courtyard walls. Install more electric fences to prevent thieves. It would be best if it could be controlled by AI. You know that I can't see. Voice control would be the best. By the way, I also need a self-defense stun baton. Recently, I've been feeling that someone wants to enter the villa. I can't see. I don't think anywhere is safe. Tang Guo's words made Madam Qin and the security personnel feel a little sad. The security personnel said that he would definitely follow her request and properly set up the villa's security. He would make sure that if the thief climbed in, he wouldn't be able to get out. Tang Guo's smile was especially beautiful. She nodded and said, "Yes, the kind where the thief can enter but can't get out. Sorry to trouble you, master." Chapter 1951. At 7:30 p.m., Jiang Yandong returned to the villa. When he walked in, he saw that there were many people in the villa. He instinctively looked inside and saw that Madam Qin was sitting with Tang Guo at the side. They were having fun, which made him heave a sigh of relief. He walked quickly to Tang Guo. Before he was in front of her, he heard Tang Guo's voice. "Is Brother Yandong back?" "Yes." Jiang Yandong replied. He was already used to it. Every time, before he even walked up to her, she would recognize him. Previously, he had asked her how she was able to accurately recognize that he had returned every time. Sometimes, he would bring a few companions back, but as long as he walked up to her, she would always be able to tell that it was him. She said, "It's easier to hear the world when you can't see. To tell who a person is, you only need to listen carefully. Listen to the frequency of his footsteps. It's like musical notes. Every person's footsteps are a musical score. The notes are different." She said that she had already memorized the sound of his footsteps. Even in a noisy crowd, when his footsteps rang out, she could instantly tell where he was going. At that time, he even smiled and said, "What if I don't make any footsteps? I still have a nose. As long as Brother Yandong is willing to walk up to me, I can sniff out your scent." She wasn't exaggerating. She could really do it. He had already sprayed a few scented perfumes on himself. When he did this experiment with his companions, she could indeed tell him apart easily. He asked, "Why is that?" At that time, she had answered, "Because I care a lot about Brother Yandong. Since I was young, I have always remembered Brother Yandong in my heart. Any man would be unable to resist a girl like her. Even if he didn't have the urge to fall in love with her as he had imagined, it was because when she talked about him, the smile on her face seemed to add a ray of light to her. He knew that she couldn't see him, but he always felt that she could see him when she talked about him. Because of a little liking, a little touched, and a lot of guilt, he promised in front of the two families that he would take care of her for the rest of her life. In order to make them believe that she would not be trapped in a world of darkness forever, he resolutely proposed to get engaged to her after she turned 18. On the day of their engagement, she was very happy and he was very satisfied. He thought that perhaps they would continue like this forever. When he came back from the competition, he would see her waiting at the door and tell her what happened during the competition. After he got the trophy, he had to bring it back for her to touch. This was an honor that belonged to both of them. When he received his bonus, he would definitely buy her favorite things. After he retired, they should be able to live a peaceful and warm life. Even if there wasn't any passion or love, he didn't feel any regret. "Have you eaten?" Tang Guo asked. She didn't disturb Jiang Yandong just now. He went to recall some things. At this time, when he recalled some beautiful memories, he could still live a relaxed life. After a while, he wouldn't be able to. In the future, Jiang Yandong would definitely miss these peaceful and quiet days. Jiang Yandong nodded. "I've already eaten." "Xiaoguo, have you eaten?" "Yes, but I asked Madam Qin to leave some food for Brother Yandong. If you're hungry, you can eat some." Peak. Chapter 1952. Jiang Yandong nodded and said, "Okay." He looked at the workers who were installing something on the wall and asked, "What are they doing?" I haven't been sleeping well for the past 2 days. I keep hearing strange noises. I heard on the news that thieves have been rampant recently. Brother Yandong is too busy and can't be at home every day, so I asked people to strengthen the defense of the villa. If there really are thieves, we can guard against them. Jiang Yandong didn't suspect anything else. These two villas weren't located in a bustling villa district. The location was indeed too quiet. The previous defense was indeed not enough to stop thieves who wanted to enter. Then you must let them do it properly. Xiao Guo always has his phone in his hand. If there's anything strange, you must call the police first. I know, Tang Guo replied with a smile. Jiang Yandong looked at the sky outside. Night had just fallen and the sky was still red. This was the best time to go for a walk after dinner. Although he still planned to go back to his room to practice the game, he still asked, "Do you want to go for a walk?" Brother Yandong seems to be busy. You go ahead. I won't be going today. I don't want to go either. They repeated this almost every day. Tang Guo didn't want to change the way they interacted. Ever since she came to this world and read the storyline, she had already eliminated Jiang Yandong as her fiancé. He wasn't qualified. The original owner was afraid of delaying his work, but she purely didn't want to go for a walk with Jiang Yandong. She would feel uncomfortable going for a walk with a scumbag. Actually, Jiang Yandong really didn't want to go for a walk. Perhaps he knew that even if he asked Tang Guo if she wanted to go, she would say no. However, hearing her say that she wasn't going was different from going straight up to practice the game without asking. Tang Guo understood his heart. If he asked her and she said no, he would feel less guilty and go up to practice the game with a clear conscience. If he didn't ask and went up directly, he would feel bad. At the time of the accident, Jiang Yandong was not even 16 years old. He was still a minor, but he was already burdened with a debt to someone. Right now, he was only 19 years old. His life had just begun. Even if he said that he didn't yearn for passion and love, it was actually because he hadn't encountered it yet. Once they met, the peace between them would be broken. With Jiang Yandong's current status, even if Xiao Lian didn't break into the villa and get to know him, someone else would have walked into his life. Because he only liked the original owner a little, but more than that, he felt guilty. When he had someone he truly liked, he would feel that everything was a burden. The original owner's care, affection, and understanding were all burdens to him. Then I'll go to my room first. Okay, Brother Yandong, don't be too tired. You must remember to sleep before 11 o'clock. I know. Jiang Yandong turned around. Even though he had been in this industry for many years, every time he touched a game, his blood would boil. People who didn't like games couldn't understand how much he loved it. It was more important than his life. Tang Guo listened to his brisk footsteps and smiled. She said to the construction workers, "I'll have to trouble you. The defense must be set up well. Make sure to catch the thief and make sure he can't escape. This kind of thief who trespasses on private property must be caught and sent to the police to teach him a lesson. Miss Tang, don't worry. The defense we're setting up for you this time is the most advanced." Chapter 1953. To ensure that the thief can enter but not leave. This defense system is specially designed to catch thieves. Of course, you can also activate this function the moment the thief enters. It took the security company 3 days to complete this defense system. It was basically a fully intelligent system. Even Tang Guo, who could not see, could use it. After they taught Tang Guo how to use it, they even tested it once. She was very satisfied with the results. Now, she just needed to wait for Xiao Lian to come here to steal things. But before that, she wanted to see what was going on with the NN and the group of people with special abilities in this world. The system had already observed this matter. Because of the rapid development of technology in this world, those people with special abilities were not ordinary people. They were not gods and could not fight against the powerful technology. They had no choice but to hide their identity and hide in the crowd as ordinary people. But no one wanted to waste their abilities like this. So, the NN of the people with special abilities was created to gather people from all over the world. Later, some ordinary people mixed in and issued some tasks. Gradually, it evolved to the present day. But, dear host, from my observation, most of the people with special abilities who mix in the NN are younger. The older ones were less involved in this. With their prideful identities, they disdain to do such sneaky things. But they do not restrict their younger generations from doing those things. Perhaps in their eyes, these things are harmless and can even be used to train their skills. Is that so? Then what do they usually do? What are their identities? Tangua found a more comfortable position on the sofa and leaned on it. For example, if they were mocked by their classmates in school during the day, they might climb into their classmates' house at night and steal their homework or puncture their bicycle tires. If they were too angry, they might even put a gunny sack over their classmate and beat him up. Some of them were office workers. In the day, they were scolded by their superiors in the company. At night, they would think of ways to teach their superiors a lesson. He didn't do anything. He just took advantage of the night to sneak into the company and tampered with his boss's chair. The next day, the boss sat down and broke the chair. He fell and fell. In the end, he fell in the wrong position and even went to the hospital. Currently, the people in the company were whispering that the boss was usually too unfriendly, sharp-tongued, and harsh, so he got retribution. As for the person who did this, he was hiding in a corner, hiding his achievements and fame, not revealing the slightest bit of abnormality. In short, those who provoked them would not have a good ending. That's right, I was in one of their secret chat groups, and I overheard them discussing something. There was a high school student who practiced martial arts. Because he talked to someone in class, he was called out by the disciplinary committee member who had good grades. In the end, he was criticized by the teacher in class. He bore a grudge in his heart. When the other party was taking the exam, while the other party wasn't paying attention, he touched the other party's pencil case and shattered all of the other party's pens. Anyway, it was basically the same thing. If someone provoked them, they would find some trouble for the other party. There are so many of these things. Does no one suspect anything? Chapter 1954. Everything seemed like an accident. How could ordinary people think so much? Who knew that someone would do such a boring thing in the middle of the night? I'm guessing that they didn't dare to do anything big because they were afraid of attracting the attention of the relevant departments. At that time, it would bring them a lot of trouble. The system saw that Tangua was deep in thought and didn't say anything else. There were actually many such things, too many to count. But those who didn't know would think that their unlucky encounter was just an accident. They didn't know that they were just careless and had a conflict with someone, and they would encounter some unlucky things. Those capable people weren't all narrow-minded. Those who weren't narrow-minded didn't like to stick their heads out and quietly live their own lives. Those who stuck their heads out liked to stand on high and tease people. The posts in the MNN were mostly the kind of posts that people took revenge on those who offended them. There were actually very few ordinary people in the MNN. If they knew about such a place and confirmed it was real, they would probably think of ways to contact those capable people and become friends with them to gain benefits. Who would spread the news? The MNN site wasn't a domestic site, so they couldn't control it. It was just a small matter and wouldn't attract much attention. Host, do you want to enter the MNN to take a look? I'm not looking. Help me keep an eye on it, especially if there's any news in their private group. If they're going to do something big, you can let me know. She couldn't control the small matters, but didn't anyone care about the big ones? Just because they had some ability, they could mess with people as they wished. It was just a dispute of words, but they had to trick people and send them to the hospital, destroy people's lives, and stand on high and see everyone as cannon fodder. She didn't like this feeling. Host, their group is very lively again. Let me see. Tang's consciousness sank into the system space. In front of her was the system's screen. On the screen were the chat messages in the group. She looked at the number of people in the group. There were as many as 1,000 people. Is it really the biggest luminous pearl? Yes, the news is confirmed. Hey, aren't you guys interested in seeing it first? If anyone dares, go take a picture and send it to the group. Whoever dares, I'll acknowledge him as my grandfather. Don't be confused. That thing isn't something we can touch. Although it's currently in private possession, it's under the protection of the country. Who knows, one day, they might not want to keep it anymore and just give it away. If they notice us, we'll be in big trouble. That's right. Those weapons aren't to be trifled with. If we lose our lives, it'll be too late for regrets. I just secretly went to take a few photos. They've been hyping it up so much, and they've even decided to hold an exhibition next month. If we release the photos in advance and give everyone a surprise, it's not a big deal. I'm not going. I'm not a master thief. I only know some martial arts. I can't do that. I'm not going either. I definitely won't go. My dad said that if I dare to touch that kind of thing, he'll break my legs when I get back. It's better not to do this kind of thing. Is there anyone from the Shao clan here? Aren't you a family of godly thieves? Aren't you interested in the biggest luminous pearl? Of course, no one answered in the end. Obviously, everyone in the group was interested in the luminous pearl, but in the end, no one dared to touch it. Tanguo remembered that there was a scene in the story that was related to this luminous pearl. Chapter 1955. Is it the biggest night-luminescent pearl that was lost in the plot? Yes, it was lost overseas in the end and caused a huge commotion. Oh, so someone must have set their eyes on the night-luminescent pearl and stole it and sent it overseas. I guess they must have made a lot of profit from this. The plot did not mention who took the night-luminescent pearl. No matter who took it, since she had seen it, she would mind her own business. Although she could not see it with her eyes, she wanted to see what the biggest night-luminescent pearl looked like through the system space. Everyone liked beautiful things, so they should be protected. Tongzi, help me find out where the night-luminescent pearl is and keep an eye on the security system. If there are any abnormalities, help them and protect the night-luminescent pearl. Don't let anyone steal it. Don't worry, Master Host. He knew that Tanguo would do this when he let her read the message. Actually, both of them had a guess. The person who could break through the layers of security and obtain the biggest night-luminescent pearl was most likely the Shao family. Since it was the Shao family, they had to stop it. Stealing was not good, especially when it was a national treasure. How could they let it be stolen? Before long, the system told Tanguo that it had found the location of the night-luminescent pearl. It was being secretly sent to the city for the exhibition next month. Because of the fear of being stolen, the night-luminescent pearl was well protected and it was transported in a confusing way. But there was no guarantee that the night-luminescent pearl would not be lost. After all, this was a world where there were capable people. The system told Tanguo that it had controlled all the systems to ensure that the other party would be discovered as soon as they entered. There was still more than a week before Xiao Lian came to the villa. Tanguo did not go anywhere and stayed in the villa every day. When she was hungry, she ate. When she was free, she listened to music. Although she could not see, the system would tell her what it saw in the NPC. Grandpa, you're so well prepared. Is the mission dangerous? It's not dangerous. It's just that the item this time is very important. The security measures will be stricter than before. If we don't prepare more, won't we become a joke in the circle if we fail? Xiao Lian pursed her lips and asked, then what are we stealing? Night Luminescent Pearl, Xiao Lian should have heard of it. Next month, the city will be exhibiting the biggest Night Luminescent Pearl to the world, right? Xiao Lian's eyes widened and she said in surprise, it's actually that one. Who gave you the mission? A friend of mine overseas. Originally, I didn't do this. But he had something I was interested in, so he agreed. Xiao Lian frowned and asked, is Grandpa's friend from our country? Yes. That's good. It's not good for such things to fall into the hands of foreigners. Don't worry, I know him very well. Grandpa and that friend have known each other for a lifetime. I know what kind of person he is. Moreover, according to the evidence he presented, this Night Luminescent Pearl originally belonged to his ancestor. He was just returning it to its rightful owner. In the hands of those businessmen who reek of money, this thing can only be put on an exhibition to scam the public. Then Grandpa, you have to be careful. The security measures are getting better and better. It's getting harder to steal things. Chapter 1956. After Xiao Lian's grandfather left, Xiao Lian thought that her grandfather was going to steal that huge luminous pearl. She felt a little tempted. She had learned so much from her grandfather, but she was born in a peaceful era in a country with very good security. She had to prepare a lot to steal something small. But she did not give up. She would often accept some tasks in the group. Apart from her identity as the successor of the master thief of the Xiao group, she was just an ordinary high school girl who loved esports. This time, when she was casually chatting, a task appeared in front of her. Steal the personal belongings of the esports genius, Jiang Yandong. Clothes, shoes, and socks. Xiao Lian could not take her eyes off this task. Jiang Yandong was also a male idol she was a fan of. She had been paying attention to him since he appeared. Usually, she did not care about these small tasks, but this task was about Jiang Yandong. It also said that as long as she accepted the task, she would be given Jiang Yandong's address. For a moment, Xiao Lian wanted to see the difference between the real Jiang Yandong and the Jiang Yandong on the screen. For some reason, she accepted this mission. Soon, she received Jiang Yandong's address and came back to her senses. Although she felt that she was a little impulsive, when she thought that it was Jiang Yandong, she gritted her teeth and decided to take some time to steal 2 pieces of clothes. She was not going to do anything bad. She was just going to take 2 pieces of clothes that Jiang Yandong did not wear. He should not find out, right? She did not know who had such a special hobby. 100,000 yuan for 1 piece. The price was really high. The day finally came. Jiang Yandong came back very early, just like in the plot. Tang Guo was sitting on the sofa, listening to the sound of the TV. When she heard Jiang Yandong enter the room, she stopped him. Brother Yandong. What's wrong, Xiao Guo? It's not dark yet, right? Not yet. Then, Brother Yandong, can you accompany me for a walk? Jiang Yandong was a little surprised by this, but he still nodded. This was the first time Tang Guo had taken the initiative to ask him to accompany her for a walk. He had no reason to refuse. He quickly put down the things and helped her out of the villa. Tang Guo did this just to buy time. Otherwise, when the sky turned dark, Jiang Yandong would go into the bathroom to take a shower after playing the game. She had already made up her mind to wait until dark before going back. When Xiao Lian came in to steal things, she would get Jiang Yandong to her room so that they wouldn't get to know each other through fighting. Otherwise, if the two of them developed feelings for each other after fighting, how could she call the police? She believed that no matter how she tried to stop it, the male and female leads would still have sparks between them. She didn't need to care about this. Right now, she only wanted to send the thief to the police station for tea. When the sky turned dark, Tang Gua asked Jiang Yandong to bring her back. Jiang Yandong went back to his room to play the game for a while. When he was about to take a shower, there was a knock on the door again. "Brother Yandong, come over and help me take a look. There seems to be something wrong with the tap in my bathroom." Jiang Yandong looked at Tang Gua's wet face and quickly stood up. "What's the matter?" "I don't know either. I heard a loud sound of water. Maybe the tap exploded. I'll help you take a look." It was already 10:30 at night. Tang Gua heard Jiang Yandong's footsteps coming to the bathroom in her room. She turned and walked out of the room, closing the door behind her. "Tongzi, break the electronic lock on my door. Don't let him come out when he hears the noise." "Understood, host." "Host, she's here." Chapter 1957. Jiang Yandong was in the bathroom of Tang Gua's room, helping Tang Gua check the faucet. Suddenly, he heard a knock on the door. He walked out of the bathroom and found that the door was closed. He walked over and said, "What's wrong?" "Brother Yandong, the electronic lock seems to be malfunctioning. Just now, I was going downstairs to get a glass of water and accidentally closed the door." "Is that so?" Jiang Yandong tried and found that there was no way to open it. He tried other methods, but there was no way to open it. Finally, he determined that there was indeed a malfunction in the electronic lock. In the middle of the night, the faucet exploded and the electronic lock on the door was broken. It was really bad luck. "Brother Yandong, I've already reported it. Ask the people over there to hurry over and help me take a look. You should help me take a look at the faucet first. If it doesn't work, turn off the faucet temporarily and wait until tomorrow morning to get someone to deal with it." Regarding the door lock, they had to deal with it today. After all, they couldn't keep Jiang Yandong locked in the room forever, right? Because Tang Guo couldn't see, the two families were worried about the windows in the room. They were afraid that she would accidentally fall out of the window. Therefore, the window in Tang Guo's room was different from the windows in other rooms. It was installed with a guardrail. Even if Jiang Yandong wanted to go out through the window, he couldn't. He could only wait in the room and let someone take care of it. "It's okay. I'll help you take a look at the faucet first." Tang Gua and Jiang Yandong said goodbye and went downstairs. She went to the living room and took an apple. Then, she picked up a knife and slowly peeled the apple by touch. Although she couldn't see, it was easy for her to peel an apple as she was familiar with it. This was a relatively remote place. It would take at least 40 minutes for the staff to rush over to repair the electronic lock. Because of the delay, it was almost 11:00 now. At 11:30, Xiao Lian should be here soon. After she subdued Xiao Lian, the staff who repaired the electronic lock should be here soon, right? One more person meant one more helper, right? System, yes, you're right. At about 11:30 p.m., Tang Guo heard some movement from the living room. The corners of her lips curled up slightly. When Xiao Lian gently flipped into the living room, she rolled on the ground and hid in the corner. She was shocked when she saw a person sitting on the sofa under the dim light. However, the other party did not seem to have noticed her. She suddenly remembered that there was a rumor that Jiang Yandong had a fiancé who could not see. Could it be that the girl sitting on the sofa was one of them? He didn't look old, about the same age as her. She was very thin and weak. Her skin was very white, and her appearance was very tender. She was quite good-looking, but unfortunately, she was blind. She tiptoed over and wandered around Tangwa. When she realized that Tangwa really couldn't see her, she let out a sigh of relief. She really couldn't see. She was really scared to death. Although Tangwa couldn't see, she could feel that someone was wandering around in front of her. If it weren't for the fact that the other party hadn't stolen anything yet, she really wanted to pick up the blind guiding stick that had the function of a stun baton and beat the other party up. Xiao Lian looked at the apple that Tangwa had peeled. She had cut it into small pieces and put it on the fruit plate. She didn't know what she was thinking, but she took a few pieces and went upstairs to eat in front of Tangwa. Chapter 1958. Host, she ate the apple you peeled. She even ate a few pieces. The system said angrily. This thief did not even let go of the apple that the host had peeled. She was indeed a family of thieves. She stole everything. Did she feel good about bullying a blind person? Yes, a blind person would not be able to see what she had done. It looked like a small prank, but it was actually a bad one. It's okay. I'll make her spit it out later. Tangwa said calmly. She had already picked up the blind guide stick and was waiting for Xiao Lian to come out of Jiang Yandong's room. She did not know what Xiao Lian would steal this time around if Jiang Yandong did not stop her. It would be best if she stole something valuable. If it was valuable, she could file a case and sue her. By then, she would have to squat in jail or suffer some other punishment. She did not know. But she was the female lead after all. Before the halo disappeared, it would not be so easy to squat in jail. At this moment, Xiao Lian was indeed strolling around Jiang Yandong's room openly. She first saw Jiang Yandong's trophies and was almost blinded by them. Then, she saw Jiang Yandong's handsome photos, especially the photos of him wearing the battle uniform. He was really charming. Looking at Jiang Yandong's big bed, she even lay down on it and said that it was so comfortable. After rummaging around the room for a long time, she did not take anything valuable. She was born in a family of thieves and did not lack food and clothing since she was young. So, the things she took were all Jiang Yandong's personal accessories. As for socks, she was not interested in taking them. It was just some belts, keychains, small pendants, and some inconspicuous things that were piled in the corner. Of course, she could not help but take photos of various places in the room with her phone. Especially the photos of Jiang Yandong. She took all of them. The only pity was that she realized that Jiang Yandong did not seem to be in the room. Thinking that there were still people in this villa, Xiao Lian didn't dare to stay for long, afraid that she would be discovered. After all, when she came in, she found that the villa's security was very good. Fortunately, she was good at fighting. If it was someone else, they might have been discovered before they even came in. She sneaked downstairs and found that Tangguo was still sitting on the sofa, peeling an apple. Xiao Lian's mind came up with a possibility. Were those small pieces of apples prepared for Jiang Yandong? For some reason, she walked over to Tangguo, intending to take 2 more pieces. Perhaps it was because Jiang Yandong was one of her fans, but now that she was facing his fiancé, she felt a little jealous. She didn't expect that when she walked over, she would bump into something and fall down, knocking over the fruit platter. Brother Yandong. Hearing Tangguo's voice, Xiao Lian did not even dare to breathe. She looked very annoyed. She quickly got up and climbed out. If you're not Brother Yandong, who are you? Hearing the voice behind Tangguo, Xiao Lian did not dare to stay any longer. She ran out quickly and climbed over the wall. It's a thief. Catch the thief. Tangua's blind guide rod not only had the effect of a stun baton, but it also had a button that could activate the villa's security. She pressed it hard and activated the security program. Xiao Lian originally thought that with his skills, he would be able to dodge those seemingly dense lightning bolts. Chapter 1959. She didn't expect that the moment she touched the wall, which didn't seem to have anything on it, her entire arm would be instantly paralyzed. She felt that something was wrong. Instinctively, she switched to her other arm. That arm was also paralyzed. Her eyes widened. Just as she was about to fall, she used her ultimate move. She lowered her head forcefully and bit a button on her body. In an instant, a long straight line flew from her shoulder to the wall. As long as the hook was attached, she could use this force to jump out. When Tangua came out, Xiao Lian's arms were hanging by her side. There was a thin long line on her shoulder. She didn't know how it was made, but it probably didn't conduct electricity. Xiao Lian was using all his strength to use the force of this long line to jump out anxiously. Because she knew that she couldn't touch the wall, it was very difficult for her to move. Her arms were still paralyzed. She definitely didn't dare to use the wall for her legs. Tangua had already reached the wall. When Xiao Lian saw her, she didn't even dare to breathe loudly. In the end, she saw that Tangua was calling the police on her cell phone, saying that there was a thief in the house and asking people to come quickly. On the other hand, she was waving a blind guiding stick around. Seeing that Tangua was getting closer and closer, Xiao Lian's eyes were filled with despair. However, Tangua couldn't see. She tried to walk slowly. Step by step, she walked over. It was as if she was walking on top of Xiao Lian's heart. Looking at the long blind guiding stick, she was about to cry. Don't come over again. She had tried so many times before, but she didn't fail. Who knew that this small villa had such a terrifying defense? If she had known, she would have prepared well and come again. Especially when she heard that Tangua was still calling the police, Xiao Lian was extremely anxious. She moved forcefully and made some noise. Then she looked at Tangua, who seemed to be smiling, and walked in her direction. She knew that a blind person's ears were very sensitive, but she didn't expect them to be so sensitive. Xiaogua, what's wrong? Jiang Yandong's voice came from upstairs. Tangua's room just happened to be able to see Tangua's current direction. Jiang Yandong also heard the movement and only then did he realize that something was wrong. Brother Yandong, it seems like a thief has broken into our house. Can you see this from where you are now? Has the thief been subdued? Jiang Yandong looked down and saw a dark figure hanging on the wall. He said anxiously, there seems to be someone hanging on the wall. Xiaogua, come back in and call the police. To be able to pass through the defense and enter, the person's skills were definitely not simple. Jiang Yandong said these words subconsciously. After all, he didn't know Xiao Lian at this time, so he naturally wouldn't stand on her side. In his eyes, thieves were also very detestable. Jiang Yandong tried to pull on the guardrail of the window, but it couldn't be opened. He turned around to open the door, but it still couldn't be opened. He had no choice but to walk to the window again to see if Tangua had entered the house. Then, he saw Tangua hit Xiao Lian's leg with the baton. She activated the stun baton's function, and Xiao Lian was electrocuted until she lost all strength. The long wire was also inadvertently cut by Tangua. Naturally, Xiao Lian, whose whole body was paralyzed, fell to the ground with a thud. She cried out in pain, and tears almost fell from her eyes. Especially when Tangua tapped her body lightly with the baton. Xiao Lian really didn't have any strength to resist. Even if she was a master thief and had some skills, she was still made of flesh and blood. Miss Xiaoguo. Madam Chen's voice came from outside. Chapter 1960. Madam Chen. Tang Guo held her cane and turned towards the entrance of the villa. Hearing the footsteps of Madam Chen and another person, she asked, "Madam Chen, why are you here? Who else is there?" "Miss Tang, I'm here to help you fix the electronic lock. Earlier, you called my company and needed it fixed urgently. When I got out of the car, I met Madam Chen. She looked very anxious." "What happened?" Madam Chen quickly walked in front of Tang Guo and checked her. Seeing that she was fine, she heaved a sigh of relief. "Young Master Yan Dong called me and said that there was a thief here." Because of the dim lighting, the two of them did not notice Xiao Lian lying motionless on the ground. Hearing the sirens around the villa, they knew that something bad had happened. "There was a thief," Tang Guo replied. Madam Chen hurriedly pulled Tang Guo back into the house and turned on all the lights outside. The worker in charge of fixing the electronic lock immediately noticed Xiao Lian, who was dressed in black, lying on the ground. He shouted, "There was a thief, but he seems to have been subdued." "Miss Tang, have you called the police?" "I've already called the police. Someone should be here soon," Tang Guo replied and even asked Madam Chen to pour a glass of water for him. This worker had always been in charge of all the electronic locks in the villa. Seeing that there was a thief, he did not fix the locks for the time being. Instead, he was very eager to help Tang Guo tie up the thief. He asked Madam Chen for a rope and tied up Xiao Lian, who was lying on the ground and unable to resist. The rope was long and his tying technique was tricky. Even if Xiao Lian was not paralyzed, she would not be able to break free in a short time. Dear host, now Xiao Lian had been tied up like a big rice dumpling by this very responsible worker. Jiang Yandong's originally serious expression also relaxed. He stood by the window and looked at the black and somewhat petite person who was tied up. He even said, "You have to tie her up tightly. Don't let her escape. It's already so late. Sorry to trouble you. Young Master Yan Dong, don't worry. I specially learned how to tie up ropes." This worker was very confident in his own technique. "Then, can I trouble you to go up and check the electronic lock for me? It's almost midnight. Although tomorrow is the weekend, Brother Yan Dong still has to wake up early to train at the club. He must rest well, or his body will not be able to take it." "Okay, Miss Tang. I'll go up and check it for you." Madam Chen and the staff member knew very well that the blind Miss Tang was devoted to her fiancé and cared for him in every possible way. With the help of the worker, the electronic lock quickly. Jiang Yandong was finally able to come out. He walked into the living room and saw Tang Guo sitting on the sofa. Madam Chen was helping to clean up the fruit platter on the floor. "What a pity. I wanted to give it to Brother Yan Dong, but it was knocked over by a thief," Tang Guo said. Jiang Yandong walked up to comfort her. "It's okay. I appreciate Xiaoguo's kindness. I'll go and see who the thief is. Why would he come to the villa in the middle of the night to steal things?" Tang Guo grabbed Jiang Yandong's sleeve. "Let's go together." Jiang Yandong did not object. Tang Guo also did not stop him from going to see Xiao Lian. Of course, she wanted Jiang Yandong to get to know Xiao Lian first. Chapter 1961. The male and female leads were destined to be enemies. First, they would be enemies. Once they had a scene where you hate me and I hate you, it would be easier for them to develop. Later on, hate would slowly turn into love. This was how it was written, and how it was acted in TV dramas. Perhaps in the future, when the two of them were hugging in a corner, Jiang Yandong would say to Xiao Lian affectionately, it doesn't make sense for me to like you. I also think that you're cute when you steal. If you like to steal, then go ahead. I'll pay for it. Which house do you want to steal from? I'll buy that place for you to steal from. The system listened to Tanguo reading these lines to it, and its whole body felt a little uncomfortable. He seriously doubted that the two of them would be so sweet because of the host's intervention. Tanguo accompanied Jiang Yandong outside. Under the bright lights, Xiao Lian's mask was roughly pulled off by Madame Qin. She was tied up like a dumpling. Being stared at by a few people, she was extremely embarrassed. Especially since Jiang Yandong was her esports idol. Although the two of them didn't know each other, she still felt very uncomfortable. Madame Qin didn't use force. She had been working here for a long time and had lived for most of her life. Even if the other party was a thief, if something happened to her, it would only cause more trouble for Miss Xiaoguo. Now that she had subdued the thief, she just had to wait for the police to come and present some evidence. If she hit someone and used force, then there would be no reason to speak of. Especially when she saw that the thief was a young girl. Madame Chen's expression turned ugly. She couldn't help but say, being a thief at such a young age, don't your parents care? Breaking into someone's house and stealing, which one of these isn't illegal? If you do something serious in the future, your life will be ruined. This Madame Qin usually liked to read social news when she had nothing to do. Moreover, she had a pair of children who were about the same age as Tanguo. Every time she saw those teenagers commit crimes and ruin their lives, she couldn't help but mutter a few words. She often said that children should be watched carefully and taught well. She couldn't let the child do something that they would regret for the rest of their lives. Otherwise, she would also regret it for the rest of her life. So when she saw Xiao Lian, she couldn't help but say this. Xiao Lian was not convinced after being reprimanded. She was from a family of godly thieves and usually didn't do anything bad. She just came to take two small things. Was it worth it to make such a big fuss? Brother Yandong, who is the thief? Jiang Yandong frowned as he looked at Xiao Lian's fair little face and said, it's a little girl about the same age as Xiaoguo. Oh, what did she steal? Jiang Yandong glanced at the bag that had rolled to the side. Let's wait for the police to come over and take a look. If we touch it, it's easy to erase her fingerprints. Jiang Yandong glanced coldly at Xiao Lian, making her feel cold. Tanguo smiled and said, Brother Yandong is really thoughtful. No matter who it is, they should be punished if they make a mistake. If after this incident, she can repent, that's good. Yeah, at such a young age, learning to steal things is really bad. Madame Qin chimed in. Xiao Lian's eyes were red. First, she felt humiliated, and second, she felt embarrassed. Being stared at like this, being caught red-handed, she really couldn't stand it. Not long after, the alarm sounded. Chapter 1962. Yeah, that's what happened. I didn't expect that a thief would really break in. Luckily, I didn't feel safe before, so I got people to strengthen the villa's defenses. Tanguo smiled and said, anything else? Is there anything else you want to ask? Oh yeah, what did she steal? Some accessories, belts and accessories. The police officers helped to check. They even went to the crime scene and took Xiao Lian's fingerprints. They also found 2 strands of hair on Jiang Yandong's mattress. Jiang Yandong looked at the 2 strands of hair in the transparent bag and thought about how his bed had been taken by a thief. He looked like he was about to break down. Xiao Lian saw that Jiang Yandong was looking at her with a cold gaze. It was as if a knife was going to peel off a layer of her skin. She felt a chill all over her body. She looked at the police officers who were so professional as they carefully checked every spot where she had committed the crime. Her neck was also a little cold. Although the things she had stolen weren't worth much, it was still illegal to break into a private house and steal things. The scariest thing was that she had been caught red-handed. Now, what she wanted the most was to be taken away quickly so that her grandfather could use his connections to get her out. She didn't want to stay in Jiang Yandong's house for a moment longer. Perhaps they had heard Xiao Lian's thoughts, because she was finally taken away after 20 minutes. There was no way she could escape. Her face had been seen and her fingerprints had been taken. She was a high school student in the day. If she didn't want to make a big fuss and become a target of scorn, she could only follow obediently. Because the things Xiao Lian had stolen weren't worth much. So the final punishment was a fine and detention. Just these 2 points alone were enough to make Xiao Lian feel terrible. After all, this incident had already left a criminal record and was a stain on her record. When Tang Guo found out that Xiao Lian had been taken out in less than 2 days, she wasn't disappointed at all. There was still a long way to go. This was just an appetizer. What was the hurry? Now, she was waiting for the big one. Xiao Lian's grandfather would probably make a move on the biggest night luminescent pearl, right? The person who was able to get Xiao Lian out so easily was most likely someone entrusted to him by Xiao Lian's grandfather. What if Xiao Lian's grandfather failed to steal the night luminescent pearl and got caught? Not only that, if the theft that Xiao Lian's grandfather had done was exposed and evidence was presented, would there really be anyone who would bail him out? On this day, Jiang Yandong had a competition. After staying at home for a long time and teaching Xiao Lian's Tangguo a lesson, she felt a little bored and decided to go to the competition site to listen to what the competition was like. She was too lazy to be a blind person who didn't do anything. She was also a little bored. She didn't tell Jiang Yandong about this. She wasn't the original owner who was infatuated with Jiang Yandong, so there was no need to tell him everything. She had asked Madame Chen to book the tickets for her in advance. Outside the competition site, there were more people than expected. Perhaps because she walked very quickly and looked no different from a normal person, most of the people were in a hurry to get to the competition and didn't notice that she was actually blind. But this didn't mean that everyone couldn't see. Tang Guo stopped in the corner and was about to wait for the crowd to recede before slowly going in. Suddenly, there was another person beside her. As she sniffed the faint scent of the candles, she heard a voice. "Lady. Miss, may I ask, are you blind?" "Yes," Tang Guo replied with a smile. "Are you here to watch the competition? Or to listen?" Tang Guo nodded. "That's right. Do you need my help? I accidentally looked at the ticket in your hand just now. We seem to be sitting next to each other. What a coincidence. Then I'll have to trouble you." Chapter 1963. After Tang Guo agreed, she heard the other party ask her to pick up the stick to write. She knew what the other party was thinking, so she picked up the stick a little. Soon, she felt a force coming from the other end of the stick. It seemed to be held by someone. "Miss, you can follow me now." Hearing the other party's words, Tang Guo smiled and replied, "Okay." The other party held the other end of the stick and walked in front. Tang Guo held the other end of the stick and followed behind. He didn't walk very fast. Even though Tang Guo couldn't see, she could still feel the other party's gaze on her. He seemed to be observing her. He definitely wasn't observing anything else. He was observing if she was walking steadily, if there were any obstacles around them, and if there would be any crowd that would break them up. "Because there are so many people, I didn't choose to walk side by side. Actually, if we die that way, no one will notice. It's easier to cause a lot of trouble." Actually, when he walked in with Tang Guo, some people had already noticed that she couldn't see. The people around them consciously slowed down a lot. Before they could make some space, the short road wasn't as crowded as before. Tanghua even heard a young girl's voice behind her. Don't run. Be careful. Don't bump into people. She seems to be a little inconvenient. Let's slow down. The competition hasn't started yet. There's no need to rush. Of course, there were also voices from a little further away. What's going on in front? Why are you so slow? Why aren't you moving? Then, the young girl's voice was heard again. Don't rush. There's a lady here who doesn't seem to be very convenient. Can everyone slow down a little? Tanghua's ears were very sharp. She seemed to hear someone whispering to the people behind them about the situation here. Then, the person who had urged them to hurry up said something like, sorry, in a low voice. Then, no one urged them again. The passageway, which was originally a little crowded, suddenly became orderly. It didn't seem to be in a hurry anymore. Everyone who went in to watch the competition consciously lined up in 2 lines. Although they seemed to be moving slowly, they actually entered very quickly. They didn't waste much time at all. The originally hot and somewhat restless summer day also dissipated because of the gentle pace at the entrance of the passage. The people who sat down were also quieter than usual. Tanghua and the kind-hearted person who helped her had already taken their seats. Thank you for just now. You're welcome. May I know your name? The man paused and said, Lin Xian. My name is Tanghua, Tanghua replied with a smile. Lin Xian was silent for a moment before he asked, why did you come to such a lively place alone? Why didn't you find someone to accompany you? It's more dangerous to go alone. It's all right. Didn't I meet a good person like you? Lin Xian didn't know how to respond to Tanghua's words. It should be said that it was his first time coming to such a lively place. This was the first time he had taken the initiative to help a pretty girl. No, it should be said that there had never been any girls around him before, but only smelly young men. Speaking of which, I haven't been here in a long time, Tanghua said. I don't know what's the difference between listening to the competition and watching it. This sentence contained a lot of information. Lin Xian sat in his seat and thought for a moment. He understood something. Chapter 1964. Although Lin Xian understood something, he did not ask why. It was not good to poke at someone's pain in front of them. Although he spent most of his time on the mountain and had little contact with the outside world, his master and uncles had taught him very strictly since he was young. They did not ask about people's pain or poke at their weaknesses. Listening to a competition should be a good experience. Tanghua, is that so? But what's the point of watching any sports competition? If you can't see the competition between the 2 sides, the exciting moments of victory, and the nervous expressions of the players and the cheers, it will always feel like the competition is lacking a lot of color. But you can hear it more clearly. The human brain's imagination is rich and colorful. You can combine these different sounds into more exciting scenes. It's also very interesting. Tanghua said stubbornly, but I want to see it even more, even if it's not as interesting as imagined. Lin Xian looked at the girl beside him who could not see the world. Listening to her stubborn words, he fell into a dilemma. Usually, when he heard his master and uncles talking to people, they were all very reasonable. Why did it not work when it came to him? Yes, he liked to see the world. Could it be the same if he could see it and if he could not? Tanghua could sense the other party's distress, and the corners of her lips curled up into a smile. The system reacted quickly and scanned Lin Xian. Finally, it said to Tanghua, Dear host, is this little bald head your most adorable? Tanghua, he's really bald. Yes, he's bald and has no hair. But he's not wearing a monk's robe. He's wearing sportswear, and it's a branded sportswear. It's not cheap. I scanned it. The shoes are about 5,000 yuan. Anyway, the whole outfit adds up to about 10,000 yuan. Are all little monks this rich these days? Oh right, he's also wearing a mechanical watch. It's not cheap. Of all the things he has, only his phone is cheaper. If he's so rich, I really don't understand why he wants to be a little monk. Could it be that he did not fulfill that wish in his previous life and wants to experience it in this life? Dear host, do you still want to be a monk? Tangua, then help me scan his head. See if there's a monk scar on his head. I don't think so. That's good. Since he doesn't have any scars, he's most likely a fake monk. There's nothing else to worry about. Didn't you say that he wasn't a real monk based on what he was wearing? What if there are scars? The system could not help but ask. Tangua smiled and said, then I'll say something nice to coax him and ask him to return to the secular world. He should agree. System, all right, he's convinced. It's just as the host said. If that guy with no moral integrity was really coaxed by the host, even if he was a senior monk, he would probably obediently return to the secular world. Does it look good? When the system heard Tangua's words, it almost spat out blood. She couldn't see, but the first thing she did was to ask if she was good-looking. Since when did its host become a dog for looks? He's very good-looking. Although he's bald, it can't hide his sparkling good looks. There are many young ladies looking at him. They're still discussing why a handsome young man like him shaved all his hair for no reason. Maybe I can help a little. Lin Xian's words interrupted the conversation between Tangua and the system. Help me. Chapter 1965. Yes, I can help you. Lin Xian thought of a good idea just now. Tangua asked curiously, how are you going to help me? When the competition starts later and we reach the exciting part, I'll tell you. How about that? At this point, Lin Xian hesitated and asked, you should have seen those heroes before and are familiar with those skills, right? That's right. I've seen them before and I'm familiar with them. Then I'll try to tell you later and see if you can understand. Lin Xian didn't know why, but he just wanted to help her. He had been sent to live in a temple on the mountain for special reasons since he was young. His food, clothing, housing, and transportation were all settled there. Most of his life was no different from that of a real monk on the mountain. But he knew since he was young that he would return to the bustling city. Initially, he didn't plan to go down the mountain. He was already used to the scenery and everything on the mountain. Even if he wanted to be a real monk, it would not be difficult for him. His family had originally planned to bring him back to the city when he turned 18. Last year, he celebrated his 18th birthday and rejected his family's offer to bring him down the mountain. Furthermore, he told everyone that he planned to become a monk straight away. He didn't have much interest in this colorful city. At that time, no one in his family or anyone else could persuade him. In the end, everyone gave him a year to consider. If he didn't change his mind after a year, they would respect his choice. Until last month, he hadn't changed his mind. Almost everyone around him had given up hope on this matter. However, more than half a month ago, he had a dream. He dreamed of a bustling city. He had never been to the city before, but he could clearly see everything in the city. It was so noisy, but he felt that the entire city was very quiet. Moreover, he heard slow footsteps. No, other than the sound of footsteps, there was another sound. Tap, 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 it was a little like the sound of the girl beside him tapping on his face with a guide stick. No one believed that he would give up being a monk and choose to return to the city and be a layman again because of a dream. The game hasn't started yet. Lin Xian's eyes fell on the sound of the blind guiding stick in Tanggua's hand. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that in addition to the slow footsteps in his dream, the other sound was made by this stick. Is there a problem? Tanggua looked at Lin Xian. I keep feeling that you're looking at me. I'm thinking about how to recite the exciting match for you later. Finally, it was time for the competition. The audience was boiling with excitement as they watched the contestants come up one by one. At this moment, Tanggua asked Lin Xian, "Can you help me check out a contestant with the code name J? What does he look like now?" System, bad woman. When Lin Xian heard Tanggua's words, he was slightly stunned. He actually had a purpose for coming to watch the match today. One of his goals was to get a closer look at the genius player codenamed J. Unexpectedly, the girl beside him seemed to care about him as well. He looks fine and calm. He should be full of confidence for this match. Really? Looks like Brother Yen Dong is very confident about this match. Tanggua said happily. Lin Xian thought about her words. Brother Yen Dong. Chapter 1966. Do you know this contestant? Lin Xian asked directly after recalling that sentence. Tanggua smiled and nodded. Yes, I know him. Lin Xian observed her cousin carefully. He had a bald head and was frowning. Are you on good terms with him? Very close. Tanggua continued, we are engaged. System, ha 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 ha. So that's how it is. Lin Xian was silent. He also remembered that he had seen Jay's information before. It was written that he had a fiancée who was 1 year younger than him. She seemed to be blind. He had also seen the details. The reason why she was blind was because her eyes and hands were injured when she was protecting Jiang Yandong. It was said that many doctors were invited to take a look at her, but they all said that she was permanently blind and could not be cured. Because of some neurological reasons, even if there was a treatment plan, with the current medical standards, it was impossible to perform surgery. As for her hands, they seemed to have been used to practice the piano. It was said that the next month after the accident, she was preparing to go abroad to participate in a competition. Oh right, not only was she good at playing the piano, she also knew how to draw. She had also won an award before. Many people praised her, saying that her drawings were very spiritual. It was that accident that although Jiang Yandong was saved, it destroyed 2 of her dreams. It turned out that this legendary fiancée of Jiang Yandong was sitting beside him. Such a good girl. No wonder Jiang Yandong did not hesitate to choose to be engaged to her. It was only right to take care of her for a lifetime. Mr. Lin, I'll have to trouble you later to help me describe Brother Yen Dong's performance. Is that okay? Hearing the girl's request, Lin Xian replied, okay. He was mainly here to see Jiang Yandong, this esports genius. Perhaps in the near future, they would become rivals. That's right. After he left the mountain, he had not thought of what to do. He also did not want to go abroad to study. Although he was on the mountain, he did not neglect his studies. It was quiet on the mountain. Besides martial arts, he also learned other things. He learned everything that he needed to learn. Just as he was about to do something, he was dragged to the club by his cousins, who said that they wanted to bring him to play sports. At first, he was unwilling, but later, he was brought along to play a few rounds. In any case, he was considered a little expert, and the flexibility of his fingers was definitely better than that of others. Things like playing games were much easier. After playing it, he found that it was not bad. Thus, he agreed to join his cousin's club and play with them for a few years. His cousin said that their only opponent was Jiang Yandong's team. Every year, they were defeated by Jiang Yandong. They all had high hopes for him, so they asked him to check on Jiang Yandong's situation and figure out the enemy's ins and outs. They said that the hope of their entire village was on him. He had only come here with a playful attitude. He didn't expect to have such a different experience. Seeing Jiang Yandong sitting on the esports chair, looking high-spirited, and then looking at the girl sitting beside him, looking serious. Even if she couldn't see, she still wanted to study by herself. He also became serious. When the competition started, Lin Xian softly whispered in Tangua's ear, describing Jiang Yandong's every move. His observation was very clear and detailed. System, Tangua, this little brother's voice is quite nice. System, go to hell. If you want to chat with more like-minded people, follow Advanced Study Literature on WeChat, talk about life, and find friends. Chapter 1967. Lin Xian observed Tangua's expression as he narrated the highlights of the competition. Looking at her smiling face, for some reason, he felt a little stifled in his heart. It had to be said that Jiang Yandong was known as an esports genius because he was really capable. In the competition, with the full cooperation of his teammates, he simply took the lead and became a one-man show. It was also because of Jiang Yandong's undefeated reputation that his teammates were willing to sacrifice themselves for him. This was a team competition. As long as they could win, and Jiang Yandong was capable, they were of course willing to sacrifice themselves for the shared glory. As long as this team continued to win, although they could not surpass Jiang Yandong in terms of glory, they would still gain a lot of glory. Lin Xian also had to admit that even though Jiang Yandong was an ordinary person, in terms of gaming, he was indeed very outstanding. He was very strong, and his skills, all kinds of predictions, and positioning were very tricky. Especially the calculation of damage and health points, it was very accurate. Not only did this require hand speed, but it also required brain power and fast calculation skills. None of these could be missing. He looked at Tangua's happy smile and became more serious in his narration, trying to observe Jiang Yandong's every strength and weakness. After all, this was his future opponent. Of course, in the end, Jiang Yandong's team won. Brother Yandong, as expected, is still so good. That's great. Hearing Tangua's generous praise, Lin Xian could not help but want to turn around and ask his cousin to equip him with equipment. He wanted to train hard in the game. The opponent was so strong, he could not underestimate them. Tangua, Tongzi, this bald little brother's narration is really interesting. System, Tangua, yeah, his voice is nice, his narration is good, and he's also a handsome bald little brother. There's really no other person in this world like him. Tangua and the system were talking, but in Lin Xian's eyes, her smile was automatically interpreted as her being happy for Jiang Yandong. He saw that Jiang Yandong was surrounded by countless fans, and Tangua was sitting in her seat with a face full of smiles. He could not help but ask, "Do you need me to bring you to see him? Then I'll have to trouble you." Lin Xian held the other end of the blind guide stick and brought Tangua to Jiang Yandong's seat. Those fans were too crazy. They kept surrounding him, and he could not bring her in. There are too many people looking for his autograph. We might have to wait. Tangua smiled and said, "Let's wait." She was not in a hurry anyway. She was not interested in seeing Jiang Yandong. After waiting for about 20 minutes, Lin Xian saw that more and more people were arriving. He whispered to her, "Why don't you give him a call?" "That's right. You're right." Tangua took out her phone and called Jiang Yandong. But there was no response from Jiang Yandong. Lin Xian said, "Maybe he didn't bring it with him, so he can't hear." "It's okay. Let's wait." "System, it's okay. Anyway, there's a handsome bald little brother holding the host's hand." She did not mind at all. She stood in the corner and waited. Lin Xian looked at the people coming and going, and suddenly calmed down. He was cultivating his body and mind on the mountain. Why did he suddenly become anxious? Chapter 1968. Xiaoguo. In the end, the person who discovered Tang Guo was a member of Jiang Yandong's team. His name was Wen Yunyang. He saw Tang Guo standing in the corner. There was also a bald guy holding the other end of the blind guiding stick. It looked like he was helping her. He hurriedly walked to Tang Guo's side. Did you come here alone to look for Yandong? Yes, brother Yandong seems to be very busy. Wait a moment, I'll go and call him. Why didn't you come and look for us directly? You wouldn't have to wait here if you wanted to. When Yunyang's voice gradually faded away, Tang Guo was still smiling. Although she knew everyone in the team, she did not have any contact with them. However, she did not have their contact information at all. In the past, she had only watched their competitions from below the stage. She had never gone backstage to look for them. This was because she had always thought that if she went to look for them, she would cause trouble for Jiang Yandong. She would distract him and affect the competition. If she went to disturb him and his teammates, would it make them uncomfortable or something? The original owner was too considerate. If she was polite, she would feel unfamiliar with people. Fortunately, these teammates often came to the villa to play. They were more familiar with each other, but they were not familiar with her. This was because she had always been quiet in front of them. She never talked much to them. This was because she liked Jiang Yandong. If she talked to other guys besides Jiang Yandong, it might cause unnecessary misunderstandings. As for her teammates, they also thought that she was gentle and distant, so they didn't get along well with her. Soon, Jiang Yandong apologized to his teammates and ran over to Tang Guo. Xiaoguo, why are you here? I suddenly wanted to listen to brother Yandong's competition. I haven't been here in a long time. Hearing Tang Guo's words, Jiang Yandong was stunned. Yes, ever since the accident, she had never come to the competition venue or watch any of his competitions. In the past, when she could see, she would come to almost every one of his matches. Why didn't you tell me that you were coming? It's not safe to come here alone. Tang Guo said. Because a kind person helped me. Just as she spoke, she realized that the other end of the blind guiding stick had lost its power. Brother Yandong, the person who helped me just now seemed to have left. Do you see anyone else beside me? Jiang Yandong looked around. No, he should have left. Oh, I haven't had the chance to thank him. Come on, let's go in first. We'll go home together later. Lin Xian, who had already walked out of the arena, turned his head back and saw Tang Guo being led in by Jiang Yandong. He felt a little depressed. He walked out slowly and accidentally overheard the girls' discussion. Who is that girl beside Zhang? She seems to be blind. Oh, that's Jiang Yandong's fiancée. You can search for her online. Fiancée. The girl who spoke was a little surprised. Why would our Zhang be engaged to a blind person? What's her background? Shoo, don't talk nonsense. There are many reasons. If Zhang knows that we are talking like this, he will not be happy. Although I also think that Zhang should have a very good person with him, it seems that there is no other way, another girl said regretfully. Lin Xian's brows never relaxed. Was there anyone in the city who spoke like this? If they were in the temple on the mountain, they would be beaten up by the entire temple. Chapter 1969. Yandong, didn't we agree to go to the karaoke? Why are you going back now? Jiang Yandong's teammates couldn't help but ask as they watched him pack up his things and walk over with Tang Gua to say goodbye. According to tradition, we have won again today, so we should go and celebrate. The person who spoke was called Tong Hui. He was the third male lead of the original female lead, Xiao Lian. He had a rather sunny and handsome appearance, and his words were loud and straightforward. He was the least scheming youth in the entire team. When Yunyang, who had come to greet Tang Gua, was the second male lead of this world. He had a good temper, was polite, and had a high IQ. He was well-rounded in everything he did. He was also the one that Xiao Lian, the female lead, was most attached to. Under these circumstances, everyone knew that Jiang Yandong was going to take Tang Gua back. They knew that today's gathering was probably not going to happen. Most of them wouldn't say anything. They would probably choose another time to gather again. Plus, there were plenty of opportunities like this. After all, their team had always been victorious. Ever since Jiang Yandong joined, they had never lost a single match. However, Tong Hui was more direct in everything he did. At such an important moment, Jiang Yandong had left with Tang Gua. That was not very nice. Jiang Yandong was an important member of the team. Now that Tong Hui had said that, he felt a little awkward. Tang Gua said, "Brother Yandong, did you guys agree to have a gathering?" "Yeah, but it's okay. There are plenty of gatherings like this." Jiang Yandong whispered to Tang Gua. He knew that gatherings could be held at any time. He definitely couldn't leave Tang Gua aside. That would be unkind. "I'll tell them that I won't be going today. Brother Yandong's team won. It's only right for them to have a gathering. It's not very good for them to leave because of me, right?" That was the personality of the original owner. She would always think for Jiang Yandong. Even though she was in the right, the weak, and the one who should be taken care of, she still couldn't help but care about everything about Jiang Yandong. It was normal for him to say something like that at this moment. Jiang Yandong was a little hesitant. Indeed, today's opening match was very important to their entire team. If it weren't for Tang Gua's sudden arrival, he wouldn't have missed such a gathering. Actually, it's not that difficult. Why don't we bring Xiao Gua to the party? We can take care of her. It won't be a problem, Wen Yunyang suggested when he saw Jiang Yandong's awkward expression. Actually, this could have been done, but Jiang Yandong always felt that Tang Gua's eyesight was not good. It would not be good to bring her there, and it would cause trouble for others. Yes, he was thinking about causing trouble for others, not whether she would be all right. Even if he felt guilty and liked her a little, he was happy to be cared for by her. But in the depths of his heart, he couldn't lie to anyone. He cared about his team members the most. In the end, Jiang Yandong brought Tang Gua to the party. These were all half-grown boys. Once they started to make a fuss, they would always neglect other things. Tang Gua sat in the corner and listened to the noise in the private room. She held a glass of juice in her hand and maintained a smile on her face. Jiang Yandong was singing, talking, and drinking with his teammates the whole time. The atmosphere was so high that he had already forgotten about the quiet girl in the corner. Chapter 1970. If you didn't like someone that much, you wouldn't care too much about her. Even if you suddenly thought of her, you would only feel a little guilty. When she said that she was fine, the guilt would slowly decrease. Once or twice, you would feel guilty. Once or twice, you would get used to it. The original owner's actions left a quiet and sensible impression in everyone's mind. So when she realized that she had no choice but to grab onto the person she liked and try to grab onto him, it would be annoying if it happened more frequently, if she was a little uneasy and nervous. Those who thought that she was sensible and obedient would think that she was arrogant because she was pampered and became insensible and willful. If you don't cry or make a fuss, who knows what you need? If you were too obedient, it would become a matter of course in some people's eyes. The system asked with concern. After all, this private room was really noisy, but this noise and joy didn't belong to her. The group of youths were already immersed in the joy of victory. Jiang Yandong didn't bring her into that world. Pretty good. Tanggua's lips curled into a smile. I'm wondering when I'll be able to meet that little bald brother again. System, all right. The system observed Tanggua and realized that there was nothing wrong with her. She maintained everything as it was, probably because she didn't want to give Jiang Yandong any chance at all. Then, he did something on his own and went to find the whereabouts of the little bald brother, Lin Xian. Since the host was so concerned about the little bald brother, then he would help the host find out what he was doing now. Not long after, the system found Lin Xian and realized that he was watching videos in a room of a villa. It wasn't any other videos, but gaming videos. He took a closer look and realized that the gaming videos were all about Jiang Yandong. Then, he found a small notebook filled with many words beside Lin Xian. After scanning it carefully, he realized that the contents of the notebook were basically strengths, weaknesses, strengths, loopholes. The system was stunned. This guy was actually studying every single video of Jiang Yandong's competition. And he started from the video of Jiang Yandong entering the esports scene. He even analyzed everything about Jiang Yandong. The system shuddered and left silently. Although this guy hadn't realized that he might have a special feeling for the host. But what was left in the subconscious would not change. She was already analyzing the enemy's weakness before she was even tempted. Amazing, the host's cutie. Tanggua smiled and asked, "What are you doing?" The system told Tanggua what it saw and realized that his energy had increased crazily for a while. He couldn't help but be speechless. That guy really knew how to please his host. A serious person will definitely achieve the greatest victory. I hope that he can lead his team and defeat Jiang Yandong, the esports genius. System, whatever the host says, that day will definitely come soon. Ah, Xian, didn't you say before that it was just for fun? Why are you so serious now? The person who patted Lin Xian's shoulder was Lin Xian's cousin. He was also the person who had pulled him into the esports club to play. This club was set up by a few youths from the Lin family who were passionate about esports. It was also very popular with many fans. It should be said that compared to Jiang Yandong's team, this team was more likable. Chapter 1971. This was because the members of this team were all of high status. An esports team made up of rich second-generation heirs, and they were all so handsome. Not many female fans would be able to stand them. Since we're going to play, we have to treat it seriously. Lin Xian didn't even raise his head as he continued to watch the video. This is what my master taught me. Since we've chosen something, we have to treat it seriously. We can't underestimate any opponent, especially this kind of team glory. If we make mistakes because of our own carelessness, then we're being irresponsible. Linley looked at Lin Xian in shock. Was that so? Was that what his cousin was thinking? Why did he feel that it wasn't just that? He glanced at a thick stack of books beside him. He flipped through them and realized that they were books on ophthalmology. Why are you reading these? Did you learn how to protect your eyes because you know that playing games is harmful to your eyes? When I bought other books, I saw that the covers were nice, so I bought them. You can understand it that way. Linley felt that something wasn't right. Xiaogua, I'm sorry. I was having too much fun with everyone and neglected you. On the way home, Jiang Yandong finally remembered that he was having too much fun with the others in the private room and didn't notice Tang Guo sitting quietly beside him. Tang Guo smiled and said, "Brother Yandong, it's fine as long as you're having fun. You don't have to feel guilty. I'm already very happy to be able to sit beside you and hear your voice. I'm happy as long as you're happy." Hearing the girl's pure tone, Jiang Yandong felt complicated and guilty. "It's my fault. I'll definitely bring you along to play in the future. I'm not having enough fun." "Brother Yandong, you don't have to blame yourself. I'm telling the truth. I'm happy as long as you're having fun." Tang Guo was telling the truth. If Jiang Yandong was having fun, then the original owner was very happy. She was really happy. As long as Jiang Yandong didn't forget her, talked to her more, and kept her in his heart. She was content as long as she sat at the side and listened to their voices. Even if her world was dark, as long as she could hear Jiang Yandong's voice, she would not feel lonely and quiet. Xiao Gua is such a good girl. Jiang Yandong didn't know what to say. "You haven't eaten anything today, right? Are you hungry? Do you want something to eat? Then, Brother Yandong, buy me a dessert, the strawberry-flavored one from before." Jiang Yandong thought about it and finally remembered that she was talking about some strawberry-flavored dessert. When she was very young, he had bought her a dessert like this for her birthday. Later on, she seemed to like the taste of desserts. "Okay. When we pass by later, I'll ask the driver to stop the car and take you to buy it." The two of them returned to the villa. Tang Guo sat in the living room and slowly ate the strawberry dessert. In reality, it wasn't as delicious as he had imagined. It could only be considered average. However, this was the original owner's favorite food because Jiang Yandong had bought it for her on her birthday. Jiang Yandong told Tang Guo that if she wanted to go to the competition next time, she should let him know and he would take her there. So the second time she wanted to go, she told Jiang Yandong. At that time, Jiang Yandong agreed. But the next day, he seemed to have forgotten about it. In the end, she asked Madame Chen to book a ticket for her and went to the competition venue alone. "What a coincidence. Why are you alone again?" Tang Guo asked in surprise. "Is it Mr. Lin?" "It's me. What a coincidence. We seem to be sitting next to each other again." System, liar. Chapter 1972. "Really?" Tang Guo asked with a smile. Her eyes were clearly lifeless, but Lin Xian felt that her entire body was emitting a gentle glow. This glow was constantly attracting him to get closer to her. He did not know what was wrong with him. He had clearly lived a peaceful life for 19 years, but a trip to a bustling city had stirred up his quiet heart. "Really, I'll bring you in. Then I'll have to trouble you." Just like before, Lin Xian held the other end of the blind guiding stick and walked sideways. He paid attention to Tang Guo's surroundings and brought her into the competition venue. He brought her to her seat and only heaved a sigh of relief when she sat down. The system could not hold it in any longer. Tang Guo was baffled. What should I be careful of? Of him tricking me into going back? I can't wait. System, go to hell, that seems to be the case. Besides, who doesn't scheme when they live in this world? He recognized me and swapped tickets with someone else. He was really trying to help me. System, seems like it. I don't want to back down anymore. Lin Xian's explanation of an intense competition was exceptionally interesting. Seeing that Tang Guo was listening with great interest, his lips curled into a smile. When it was finally over, he finally remembered that Tang Guo might have come for Jiang Yandong. He hesitated for a moment, then asked reluctantly, "Do you need my help to bring you to Jiang Yandong?" Brother Yen Dong, don't you look very busy? He is very busy. There are many female fans surrounding him asking for his autograph. But with your relationship with him, he should come over. Tang Gua shook her head. Forget it. I'll have to trouble Mr. Lin to bring me out. If I disturb Brother Yen Dong every time, I'll bring him trouble. They won again today, so they'll definitely go for a meal and karaoke. I'll only bring them trouble if I go over. Lin Xian did not say much and brought Tang Gua out. He could not comment on other people's affairs. He only felt that this was a very persistent girl, so he chose to respect her. At the same time, he felt that it was a pity. If only her eyes could see, her life would be very good. Why is there only one person coming out every time? Mr. Lin, do you think that I should stay at home and not go anywhere because I can't see? It's not like my legs are broken. Even if my legs are broken, I can still travel with the help of tools. No, that's not what I meant, Lin Xian said nervously. What I meant was that it might be better to find someone to accompany you. I don't think I need it because I can use tools to go wherever I want like a normal person. Even if we run into trouble, aren't there kind-hearted people like Mr. Lin around? Lin Xian wanted to say that he didn't appear every time. However, he glanced at the competition venue behind him. Perhaps he would appear in any of Jiang Yandong's matches. As for her, she probably only watches Jiang Yandong's matches, right? That's fine too. Having figured it out, Lin Xian was in a good mood. One evening, Tang Gua sat in the living room and waited for Jiang Yandong to come back. Today, Jiang Yandong was a little different. Listening to his footsteps, he seemed to be in a hurry. After a while, he came back down. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.